Hey guys, Hailey, Lain, aka Key Black here, and welcome back to another episode of Off the Cuff. So previously I did an episode on G Gundam. It was my first time watching through the series, and my original plan was to do off-the-cuff episodes as I was going through the series, you know, experiencing it for the first time. You know, I'd watch a couple of episodes here, and then I'd be like, okay, time to do an off-the-cuff about that. You know, what was my favorite part? But I ended up binging the entire series that weekend. So, change of plans. I'm actually now on a rewatch throughout the entire series with my buddy Jess. We're actually recording our reactions to the episodes on this rewatch because there's so much in the series early on that it's so much different on the rewatch once you actually know what happens later in the series, and it has been a total blast. If you guys are curious about that, the recordings will be available synced up to the clips from the episodes that we are reacting to, so head on over to Jessica Calais Sheffield's The Works Substack if you haven't signed up for it already. I'll have a link in the description to it. So, I wanted to take the opportunity over here on Off the Cuff, now that I'm going through the series again, no longer blind, to talk about what it was that I liked about each episode as we're going through them. So, with episode 1, the biggest thing that I was left with the impression with from this episode is just how much it made me feel. There's this weird, specific nostalgia that I have a very difficult time putting my finger on. Very few series make me feel this way. It kind of makes me think of being a kid and watching Saturday morning cartoons, you know, like the ones that you'd get really excited about watching, like waiting to see what was going to happen this episode, what were the main characters going to get up to, how was the plot going to progress. There have been so few shows that make me feel that way, and the ones that consistently do all seem to be directed by Yasuhiro Imagawa. You know, first it was Giant Robo, and then it was Tetsujin 28, then it was Gao Gaigar, now it's finally G Gundam. And I've mentioned before, the only reason I finally started watching G Gundam was because of the soundtrack just being absolutely baller. Turns out it's Kohei Tanaga, the same guy who did the early One Piece soundtrack, so, you know, no wonder it's so good. But, you know, for me, I'd never watched a Gundam series before, completely blind into this first episode, and what struck me is just how much of an intrigue was built up in the first couple of minutes. You know, it opens up on this great shot of these mysterious capsule things being shot towards Earth. There's a narration explaining what the Gundam fight is, how every 4 years in the future, you know, every 4 years, the neo-colonies of the then versions of today's countries, Neo-Italy, Neo-Japan, so on and so forth, would engage in a kind of battle royale, sportsmanship-like Gundam fight in lieu of having a war. And, you know, whoever would come out on top of these Gundam fights every 4 years would be able to rule the space colonies in total. And immediately after this kind of narration, we see these things being rocketed towards Earth and landing with these big explosions, and it's devastatingly destructive. So, like, first time I was watching it, I was like, what is going on here? Is this war? This is pretty horrific. Like, there's this, you know, there's this poor dog that gets careened off by the shockwave of one of the explosions. Apparently one of these capsules landed off course, so immediately, like, I'm like, what's going on here? Is this planned? Are we about to see the one person trying to throw a monkey wrench into the war? Like, what's going on? And what is the nature of the war? Like, all these people are fleeing the city. We're apparently in Neo-Italy here. The cops are reacting with a serious investigation into the landing site of this one capsule that apparently veered off course. And amidst all of this devastation and destruction, however, we meet who turns out to be the bad guy for this episode, Niccolo. We learn from the NPCs of the episode that Niccolo is the mafia boss and also Italy's representative fighter for the Gundam fight this year. And Niccolo himself is super wild and wacky. Like, he's got these attendant maids who dress him in this this fluffy robe. He steps outside onto his balcony and goes, "That's it. That's the signal to start. It's the signal for the Gundam fight." It's like, who are you? Why are you so excited? This is horrific, but why is this one guy so excited? Mikolo is just a complete delight throughout this episode, and it was really fun kind of seeing him clash with Domon's character, who's kind of introduced. He's pretty obviously the main character, his big bright red cloak. He's not fitting in with anybody else in the environment, and he seems dead set, completely oblivious to what's going on around him, on finding whoever this one guy is in this photograph that he procures. Have you seen this man? Kind of becomes his catchphrase for the first several episodes. You know, anytime he'll fight with somebody from the first episode onward, he'll basically bring up this photo and ask the other Gundam fighter, have you seen this man? Even as he's delivering the finishing blow. And what I loved so much about this episode, that feeling that I mentioned earlier, that kind of like excitement, nostalgic feeling, really started to hit me towards the end of the episode, because the basic setup here is that, you know, the cops are reacting. Apparently the Gundam fight is very notorious for causing all this mayhem and destruction, displacing all kinds of people. There's these bunch of kids who lost their parents in the last Gundam fight, and yet, you know, they're scraping by collecting things from stores as people are fleeing the immediate area where the battle's about to take place. And this mafia guy is, you know, very clearly just in it for the amount of clout and power that being a Gundam fighter gives him. And he's trying to lord his position around and tries to fling it at Domon, tries to, you know, lure him into a Gundam fight so he can get even more clout. Domon doesn't really bite the bait when a hostage is taken. You know, he's like, I'm not interested in that. I'm just here for one reason only. You know, secretly adorable, as we learn in later episodes, he actually decides he's gonna, you know, save the kid and then save the bitter detective who's, you know, trying to fling everything in the book at him, trying to accuse him of being the Gundam fighter so he can just, you know, be a totally horrible cop to him. I like that kind of plot, but Domon is just a really fun kind of character to end up rooting for. This edgelord walking around looking for this one guy, ends up duking it out Gundam fight style with Mikolo, and it's such a fun fight. There's so many things about it that are teetering on the edge of ridiculous and totally impractical, but it's so cool that it doesn't matter. It's like, you may have those silver feet, Mikolo, but I've got these golden fingers! Shining Finger! And that was it. That was the track. Shining Finger was the track that made me finally want to watch the show. So I'm really having fun on the rewatch here. I was having a blast the first time I was watching it, and knowing what Domon turns out to be like, and also the fact that we see Mikolo again later, makes episode 1 so much more fun on the rewatch. Guys, I'm going to cap it off there before I start babbling too long. Thanks so much for listening and for watching. I will see you in the next episode because I'm going to continue talking about this. Next episode will be the one featuring Chibody Crockett, the representative of Neo America in the Gundam fight in G Gundam. So I hope you guys enjoyed this, and I will see you next time. Thanks again.